Good morning and welcome back to another video. Just picked up some plants this morning, so I'm just going to go and figure out where to put them. As you might know, this year has been very much about building the kitchen so far. That's been our main building project. But this week we've actually been working on a slightly different building project that came pretty much out of nowhere. We have been working on a tiny little mini house, which is actually a dog kennel. We've been building it in the style of a mini house. We've been practicing a few construction methods that we were really interested in trying out, and it's been a really fun little project, so I'm going to show you that this week. But before we get into that, there's also been quite a lot going on in the garden. The winter garden has definitely started to give way to the spring garden. I've started planting out lots of the spring and summer stuff, so let me show you a little bit of what's been going on there. Some of these beans are getting quite big, so I'm going to plant these up today. What have we got here? Yeah, I've got a lot of one variety, which is called Judía Buenos Aires Roja. It did really well for me a couple of years ago. Last year I didn't do so well with it, but I think I was planting seeds that I'd saved, and that was probably a bad idea because it's probably a hybrid. I'm not sure, but I'll check. But the first year I grew them, they were so productive, so I've sown a lot more this year. I think that'll be our main bean variety. I shouldn't have watered these because they're so much harder to get out of the little trays when the plug bit around the root is wet. When it's dry, it comes out really easily. I should have a knife in here somewhere. I often just use a little knife to help hook them out. These seed trays are really good because they're really strong. They don't just break apart like the plastic ones do, but they're very deep, and sometimes it can be quite hard to get the plug out, especially if it's wet or if the roots have grown a bit too much and they're sort of coming out the bottom. I've probably left these a little bit too long. They're looking very eager to get outside. Good evening. It's been a long day. We've been working on the dog kennel, Ina's kennel, and it's the evening now, and I've just got one more thing that I need to do because we mixed a little bit of extra cement, so I need to use it before it goes off. And I've got this piece of wood here. I'm going to make a form for the other side of the bit that goes beneath the roof. You'll see what I mean in a second. So earlier we made the top of the slant that's going to be, the roof is going to go on there, I don't know what you call that, the edge of the wall. We made that with a form, and I just needed to cut a form out for this side as well because it's got a slightly different shape. commented during the kitchen build that I had done all the brickwork like in a line, not nicely crossed over like this. And yeah, I was building in the kitchen a few little columns or separators for the cabinets, and I didn't bother to overlay the bricks like this because it was just a small little area and I couldn't be bothered to go and cut a bunch of bricks down to size. However, as you can see, here is the proof that I do know how to lay bricks properly so that they're stronger and more stable. And we had to cut obviously a few bricks down in order to get this done, but we only had to cut about 3 every other row. So that is the last of the cement used up. We'll just leave that form on until tomorrow and then I'll take it off and that'll be like the walls all done. I just wanted to show you this, which we made earlier today. This is a, well, it's the starter of a traditional cane roof, which I wanted to try out on this little dog kennel. I had actually had a go making a cane structure like this a few weeks ago at my friend's place. He was building a similar kind of roof for his chicken coop. It's the traditional way of building a roof around here. In fact, our house has the traditional cane roof. If you look underneath all the tiles and the rubble and the whatever else is in there, at the bottom are like mats of canes like this forming the structure, or at least forming the support over the beams for like the rest of the roof to go on. It's actually heavier than it looks. I'm gonna put it down, but it is quite strong. So yeah, a little while ago we made some mats like this out of canes at my friend's house, and it was a really great learning experience. We'd actually cut the canes from here in our land because we have an abundance of canes where we've got the barranco running around the edge, and yeah, we spent a day making 2 big mats that were just perfectly sized to fit over the roof of his chicken coop. With the walls all done, the next step was to attach the door frame. There's probably an easier way of doing this, but I decided to bolt a wooden frame into the brickwork, so I started off by chipping away the bricks where I wanted to introduce the bolts. Meanwhile, Mauro was plastering the inside with lime mortar, which was easier to do before the roof went on. I don't know, that's not the position I would have chosen. I passed the bolts through the wooden frame and stuck them into the cracks in the bricks, which I'd filled with mortar, making sure they were securely in place. Unfortunately, I didn't have actual bolts, so I just had to make do with a bar of threaded metal. I put 2 nuts on the outside of the metal. If you have 2 nuts together like this, they generally stay pretty well in place, and I added a little bit of glue between them just to be sure. I would have liked to have recessed the nuts into the wood, but I didn't have the tool for that, so I just left it like this, and I think that's fine. We also built a little ridge at the bottom of the door to try and prevent too much dust and stuff from blowing in the door when it was open. The next step was cutting and treating the wood which we intended to use for the roof beams. Good morning! Today I am back on the dog kennel. I'm going to try and put the roof on. I think I mentioned before, but we're going to try and do a traditional cane, mortar and tile roof on the dog kennel. It's a technique that I wanted to try on a small scale before trying it on some bigger projects like the shed. And yeah, I've been reading this book which I'm a little bit obsessed with. It's not really a book, it's like a downloadable PDF. I'll put the link in the description. It's in Spanish, but it's about building and constructing using canes, and it's super interesting, and it explains a little bit in there about how to make these kinds of roofs and how to do loads of other stuff with canes. It's really cool. It's got loads of wonderful pictures of vernacular buildings and little huts and architectural styles from the very plain and simple that could be constructed by one person to more elaborate like arches and staircases and just really cool stuff. And since reading that book and being really inspired, and since we have such a lot of cane on our land, I'm just really excited to see what I can build with it. So I am very excited about this roof. So what I'm going to do now is attach the cane mat to the beams that are firmly in place. I'm probably just going to use wire, drill some holes through the beams and use some wire to attach it. I would have liked to have a bit of an overhang on either side, but I don't know how to do that. I've even gone around a couple of ruins around here and scouted out how their roofs are done, and I've looked at how our roof is done, and the roof just comes up to like the edge of the building. There's no overhang. I've never seen an example of that. If I was to overhang the roof a bit, I don't know how I would like protect the canes from the elements. They would need to be like fully encased in mortar, I think. Whereas if I just cut the canes level with the wall, then I can like mortar up to the tiles and it'll all be like enclosed. That's how it's done on our roof as well. So we do have a little overhang here at the front, which I'm just going to remove so that it's level with the front as well. I actually think that traditionally this would have been done in place, so you would have put the guiding canes in place, fixed them in place somehow, and then kind of built this actually in situ. With the roof in place, I then spread a layer of lime mortar a couple of centimeters thick across the whole roof. I filled in all the gaps around the edge where the canes met the roof beams, and then I just had to figure out how I was going to lay the roof tiles. Okay, so I'm nearly done on the first row of tiles. I think it looks okay. I think it might even look good once I'm done, but the issue we have is that because it's such a small roof, I didn't have much leeway when it came to how many like rows of tiles I could fit in. 2 wouldn't have been enough, but 3 is kind of too many, 3 underneath tiles, because now the issue is that the top tiles are a little bit too close together. There's only really a finger's width room at the bottom, and that's not ideal. It should be a lot wider so that the rain can wash off more easily. Hopefully, because it is such a small roof and it won't be catching that much water, it'll be okay. But if this was like a roof for a human house, it would be a real problem. But then on a bigger roof, you'd have been able to shuffle along the bottom pieces and get a better fit. So yeah, this is the only issue I see so far. Super happy with it. It's a little bit awkward in places. The gaps between the tiles are definitely not enough, especially on this one here. It's just, I can't even get my finger through, so we're gonna have to see how that holds up when it rains. Anyway, I don't really mind. I'm super happy with it anyway. I guess if it leaks, we'll just have to figure something else out, maybe put another roof on top of the roof, I don't know, but I think it looks really good and I'm really happy with it. What I have tried to do to compensate for the narrow gaps between the tiles is make sure that all the mortar like around the edges of the tiles is all sealed in so that there's no gaps underneath the tiles, because that's what happens on our roof. When it rains really heavily, the water can't escape fast enough and it pools and it enters underneath the tiles and then into the roof and into the house through the underneath bit. So I've tried to guard against that. We'll see how it works. I think that Una's got a better roof than we have right now, so yeah, I guess the rain and time will tell. Good morning, it's a beautiful day, chores are done, and I am going to try and finish the outside of the dog kennel. I'm going to put a lime render on it. I've got enough lime to do this because I've only got one bag and it's quite a limey mix. It's 2 to 3. Anyway, we'll see. lime render went on really nicely. I had used a lime and cement mix mortar for the rest of the kennel, but this was my first time working with a purely lime based mix with no cement in it, so I was interested to see what it was like to work with, and it was really nice. The reason I chose lime was partly to start to learn how to work with it, because I really want to move away from the classic cement I've been relying on for some time, and also because lime has antibacterial properties which I thought would be ideal for a place where an animal is going to spend a lot of time. If this kennel goes well, I really want to use a similar technique to build a new, larger chicken coop, so this is basically a mini test run for that future project. Okay, I've done 2 and a bit walls. I think they're looking really good. It's super hot today. I'm trying to keep the walls as wet as possible so that it doesn't crack as it dries. So far we seem to be having success, no cracks so far, but the sun is like following me around as I do each wall. I've probably done them in the wrong order. I should have done it in the other way around so that I was doing the wall that was in shadow. But yeah, I'm super happy with how it's going. I'm so close to being done. Just got this tiny little half wall section left to do. It's a bit awkward back here around the back, but it's also in the shade, which is nice because it's very hot. Really feels like a proper summer's day today, and yeah, I can't wait for the shower I'm gonna have when I finish this. Okay, I think we're done, and it's really good timing, so I think I've just heard Mauro finish, so I'm gonna go get him and show him what I've done. Mau? You there? Do you wanna come and see what I've done? You like my hat?
Who got it for you?
Mauro got me this hat. Thought it was a silly hat, but it's not so silly when it's like 30 degrees and you're doing construction stuff outside.
It's so good. It's so nice.
You like it?
I love the roof. The roof is the best part. It looks very professional.
I'm really proud of the roof.
Yeah.
It's what?
It's so much more than Una needs.
Yeah. But it was a good experiment to try lots of stuff out.
Absolutely.
Tofu!
Tofu,
What you got there? Anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there for today. Well, definitely for today and for this video, I mean. So I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back very soon to put the finishing touches on it, the door mostly, and yeah, tidy up around the outside, and there's probably loads more to do, but it's nearly there. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.